Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. I've got to say that time flies when you have college football. It is already time to start previewing this next week's slate of games, guys, as we are now entering week 2 of the season. And I can promise you that it's going to be way better than week 1. You're going to see some more competitive games, and you're going to see some more elite teams take the field this weekend, as many of the ACC and Big 12 teams are kicking off their season on Saturday. So as always, guys, we are here to bring you our top 5 games of the week, just like we did last week and just like we will do every other week for the rest of this season. We're taking a look at our top 5 games going into week 2. We'll start right up here at the top as we have the first ACC matchup of 2020. Syracuse travels to the 18th ranked North Carolina Tar Heels, guys, to kick off ACC play. Now, these two teams did not meet back in 2019, but they did meet back in 2018. Syracuse winning that game 40-37 in double overtime. And this is a very intriguing matchup for many reasons, namely North Carolina. North Carolina is the biggest reason that this game is so interesting and so important. They're one of the most hyped teams going into 2020, guys. They're a team that has very high expectations. They went 7-6 last year in year 1 under Mac Brown, and it should be noted that all 6 of those losses, guys, were decided by one possession. That includes a 1-point defeat to Clemson. So this North Carolina team is really, really good. And we're going to touch on them in a second, guys. But we want to touch on Syracuse first. You know, they're coming off a disappointing season as well. A 10-win season in 2018. They went 5-7 in 2019. Didn't even make a bowl game in 2019. A major reason of that was because of how poor their offense played, specifically their offensive line. Quarterback Tommy DeVito was the most sacked quarterback in the country last season. Yet he somehow managed to throw for 19 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. So Syracuse has to drastically improve that offensive line. They really have to drastically improve both sides of the ball. And Dino Babers recognized that and is now bringing in 2 brand new coordinators. And on defense, the Orange are switching to a 3-3-5 defensive scheme. One that could throw North Carolina off a little bit, especially with Andre Cisco in that secondary for the Orange, who has 12 interceptions in his collegiate career. That is the most among active college football players right now. So Andre Cisco going to be a guy that Sam Howell needs to avoid, but ultimately Sam Howell has too much talent surrounding him to lose this game. Howell threw for over 3,600 yards and 38 touchdowns as a freshman last year. He would be fine by himself. But throw in a 1,000-yard rusher in Michael Carter at running back, throw in a 1,000-yard wide receiver in Daz Newsome, throw in Chaz Surratt on defense, guy who had over 100 tackles last year, the leader and the anchor of this Tar Heels defense. There is too much talent over in Chapel Hill right now. Mac Brown has his Tar Heels ready to go. This ranking is not a fluke. The hype that you have heard all offseason is not a fluke, and I think they win relatively comfortably against the Syracuse Orange on Saturday afternoon. We now head over to the Big 12, guys. We're taking a look at Louisiana traveling to Ames to take on the 23rd ranked Iowa State Cyclones. Now, when you look at this big board, guys, you look at this and you say, this is a Sun Belt program taking on a ranked Big 12 program, a ranked Power 5 program. Why is this a top 5 game? Why should this game even be on our radar? Well, for starters, this is a game between our projected Sun Belt champions and our projected Big 12 champions. That's how good both of these teams are. And Louisiana is not your ordinary Sun Belt program. Let's just let that sink in a little bit too. Louisiana is not your typical Sun Belt program, guys, and I think Iowa State probably is wishing they had someone else to face off against this Saturday instead of the Raging Cajuns. Because Louisiana went 11-3 last year, their best record in program history. They averaged 37.9 points per game. while allowing just 19.7 points per game. They improved their defense by 14.5 points per game between 2018 and 2019. It was one of the most drastic improvements in all the country last year, and no one even knew about it. So the Raging Cajuns are doing a great job this season. They're doing a great job under Billy Napier, who has got them to multiple Sun Belt Conference championship games, but has fallen to Appalachian State each time. But they returned their quarterback in Levi Lewis. They returned their top two running backs in Elijah Mitchell and Trey Regis. And this offense is going to give Iowa State's defense some fits in this game. Remember, in last year's season opener, Iowa State struggled, going to triple overtime with Northern Iowa, nearly falling to the Panthers of Northern Iowa. So this is certainly a game where Iowa State cannot replicate what they did last year. They've got to come out ready to go. They've got to go out firing on all cylinders. And usually you would say that for the visiting team. We're saying that here for the Cyclones. But the thing is, I think Matt Campbell does just that. I picked Iowa State to win the Big 12 for a reason. One of them, of course, was their quarterback in Brock Purdy, throwing for nearly 4,000 yards last year, 27 passing touchdowns to go along with 8 rushing touchdowns. Another major reason I like Iowa State so much is their defense. They return 9 starters on that side of the ball and have a very strong secondary, guys. One that I think is very underrated and is not being talked about enough. So while both teams have very potent offenses, the defense to me is going to be the difference maker. I think Iowa State is too big, too physical up front in the trenches, where this game could very well be won. And the Cyclones escape the Raging Cajuns in Ames in a game that is relatively close for the majority of the game. I think Iowa State doesn't pull away until late third quarter or early fourth. We then move down to South Bend, guys, between Duke and the 10th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now, this is a game of firsts. Many firsts at that. Of course, the season opener for both teams, both for Duke and Notre Dame, but this is technically the first game for Notre Dame as a member of the ACC. Now, of course, take that with a grain of salt. Notre Dame is not a permanent member of the ACC when it comes to football, but they joined the conference this season due to the coronavirus. The Fighting Irish wanted to play, and the ACC graciously accepted them. This game will count as a conference win or loss for either team. So it's legit. So the first game for Notre Dame as a member of the ACC, and the first game for new Duke quarterback Chase Bryce, who, as we all know, transferred over from Clemson. He was one of the most highly touted transfer quarterbacks on the market, and somehow David Cutcliffe and the Blue Devils were able to land him. We know David Cutcliffe is a fantastic quarterback whisperer. He's a quarterback guru. We've seen the job that he's done over many years. Stops at Ole Miss, of course, what he's done at Duke, how he has developed great offenses and great quarterbacks. Can Chase Bryce be the next product of David Cutcliffe? And can Chase Bryce really fit into what was a lackluster offense last year and really adapt and build chemistry with these players in a very short amount of time? Can he have it done by week 1? Week 2, really? I don't think he can. I do think Chase Bryce turns his Blue Devils program around. But as we even said in our Duke predictions, I don't think that comes until next year. I think it takes a full year for Duke to really find their footing under Bryce, and next year is the year they could really bounce back, have a successful season, and return to the postseason. You look at Notre Dame, guys, of course, Bryce the key for Duke. Ian Book is the key for the Fighting Irish. Ian Book, one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. He returns a very stout offensive line, very strong offensive line yet again. A very strong defense this season as well for the Fighting Irish. Again, one that sure lost a handful of key pieces, but one that again is not being talked about nearly enough. I think this Notre Dame defense is able to pressure Chase Bryce quite a bit, especially at their home stadium at South Bend. You look at Notre Dame last year as well, they outrushed Duke 288 rushing yards to 95. Ian Book accounted for 139 of those 288. So not only is Duke going to have to prepare for a dangerous pass game from Ian Book, they're going to have to watch out for that run game as well, even though that 139-yard mark was not very characteristic of Book over the course of the entire 2019 season. But nonetheless, the Fighting Irish will take care of the Blue Devils at home. I do not expect this game to be very close. Maybe it's relatively close at halftime, but Notre Dame pulls away in a big way in the second half. They kick off the year 1-0 and 1-0 in conference play. This may be the only year you can ever say that. After that, guys, we move on down to Tallahassee for another ACC conference matchup. You can see we have 4 of them up here right now. 4 ACC matchups taking place, and they're all within the conference. We start here, though, with Georgia Tech traveling to Florida State. Now, this is a big game. To the outsider, it might not look like it. 2 teams that have struggled as of late, 2 teams that aren't ranked, 2 teams that more than likely are not going to be contending for an ACC title. But this is the first game for Florida State's brand new head coach, Mike Norvell, who came over from Memphis after leading the Tigers to a 12-1 record last season. We know Florida State has struggled, guys. They're a blue blood program, and they want to get back to that national relevancy, and they've been unable to do so. They finished 6-7 last year and haven't finished above 500 in ACC play since 2016. 2016, they have not finished above 500 in conference play. I think that could change right now in year 1 under Mike Norvell, who's going to come in and do things that Willie Taggart never thought possible. He has already named James Blackman the starting quarterback for the Seminoles, and I do believe that you're going to see James Blackman play extremely well against the Yellow Jackets. You're going to see a James Blackman that you never saw under Willie Taggart. I just think Mike Norvell's got the better mind. I think he's got the better staff. I think he's got the better plan. We knew Willie Taggart never had a plan. We knew he was never prepared, and that the job in Tallahassee was way over his head. I do not think that's the case here for Mike Norvell. So in front of a crowd of about 20,000, as that's the maximum they're going to allow, I do believe Florida State takes down a Georgia Tech squad that's continuing to improve and try to find their identity under second-year head coach Jeff Collins. We know that Georgia Tech is switching from that triple option that they ran so much under Paul Johnson to more of that pro-style offense that Jeff Collins wants to implement. And when you're trying to do such a drastic change like that, you can't do it in a year. You're probably not going to be able to do it in 2 years. And this is not the game that you want to open up with if I'm Georgia Tech. The biggest questions for them, of course, are who is going to be quarterback. And right now, it very well could be Jeff Sims. A little bit of bad blood there, as Sims did commit to Florida State and then decommitted and went to Georgia Tech. So it could be Jeff Sims, which would kind of be a very interesting matchup to see here. And then you look at their running game and their defense. It's going to be their key as well. The running game wasn't all too bad for Georgia Tech last year, but they still only managed to average 16.7 points per game while allowing 32.4 points per game. So all in all, Florida State has too much speed. They've got too much size. They've got too much talent. They've got too much depth. And I think Florida State wins this game by at least 2 touchdowns in Tallahassee, and the Mike Norvell era gets started on the right foot. And then finally, our final game on the list is where College Game Day is going, so you have to give it something, right? Number 1, Clemson traveling to Wake Forest. Now, of course, we know who's going to win this game. We've got it marked down here, and pretty much everybody in the country knows that the Tigers will defeat the Demon Deacons on Saturday. Now, we don't want to write it off. We don't want to just say that and move on. We don't want to write off this game at all. You look at this game, guys. Clemson has dominated Wake Forest over the years. They beat the Demon Deacons by 49 last year. They beat the Demon Deacons by 60 in 2018. Clemson, yes, lost a lot of star power on both sides of the ball, but they have arguably the most dynamic duo in all of college football this season in Trevor Lawrence at quarterback and Travis Etienne at running back. And right there is pretty much all you need to consider yourself playoff contenders. You have arguably the best quarterback in the country and maybe the best running back in the country lining up alongside each other yet again after losing in the national championship last year. The defense, always going to be strong under Brent Venables. The front seven, especially, the defensive line, especially, going to be very tough this season against a Wake Forest offensive line that's a little bit shaky, has a few concerns up there. You look at the Demon Deacons, guys. I love Dave Clawson. I love the job that he has done with this program and getting them to consecutive bowl games. He's done an unbelievable job with Wake Forest. But this is going to be a very difficult year for him. They lost their quarterback in Jamie Newman, transferred to Georgia, and then decided to opt out. Not quite sure what that's about. But Jamie Newman is gone, which means Sam Hartman is the man for Wake Forest. Then you had your top wide receiver, not just for the team, but maybe in the ACC, opt out as well in Sage Surratt. He is not playing this season for the Demon Deacons. Cade Carney, the running back, is gone. So Sam Hartman does not have a lot of talent to work with offensively. He didn't have that much to work with offensively to begin with. When Surratt dropped out, he's been left alone. He doesn't have much talent surrounding him. And I do think this offense is going to struggle early on this season, not just against Clemson, but this season, especially with them not being able to have much of spring practice and not many fall practices as well. So obviously some major concerns going into this game for Wake Forest. We know they have 9 returning starters on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's fantastic when you're facing off against middle-of-the-pack ACC teams. 9 returning starters is not going to do anything against this Clemson offense. The Tigers roll in Winston-Salem. Not going to be very close at all. I don't know if they win by 49. I don't know if they win by 60. Maybe somewhere in between. But bank on Dabo Swinney and the Tigers not missing a beat here in Winston-Salem on Saturday night. Clemson starts off their season 1-0 in a quest to return to the national title game and then win it. So guys, there are your top 5 games of Week 2. But keep in mind, there are some other great games on deck for this Saturday, guys. We have Louisiana Tech traveling to Waco, taking on Baylor in Dave Aranda's first game as head coach of the Bears. You have Arkansas State traveling to Manhattan to take on Kansas State. Potential trap game there for the Wildcats, guys. Arkansas State already having a game under their belt. Kansas State, their season opener, with some questions on the offensive side of the ball. Missouri State travels to the 5th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. Got Bobby Petrino taking on Lincoln Riley, 2 brilliant offensive minds, and quarterback Spencer Rattler is now going to be under center for the Sooners. You're going to get to see him make his legitimate debut as the full-time starter for the Sooners. You can watch that game on pay-per-view if you want. And then Western Kentucky at Louisville, of course, a potential high-scoring matchup there. Scott Satterfield and the Cardinals, high expectations in 2020. And Coastal Carolina taking on Les Miles and Kansas in a revenge game for the Jayhawks after falling to the Chanticleers by 5 in 2019. So a couple great games on deck, not just these 5, but also the 5 we just mentioned. So we've got a great Saturday of college football coming your way. Really, finally, a full Saturday of college football coming your way, and it's only going to get better in the weeks to come. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. We've got exclusive content on our website, thegridironexpert.com. We've got exclusive content and offers over on our Patreon account. And we've got offers over on BetNow, where you can use that promo code GRIDIRON for a 100% sign-up bonus. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.